Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander Epic. And happy Easter for 4 days ago, because this is really late in getting up, but I do apologize. Basically, this was a game I commissioned last week. Thank you to Zoc for getting all of the pros together. It's going to be a big pro FFA on Engie mod. And why am I doing Engie mod? Well, basically I normally do regular vanilla games, ladder matches, that kind of thing, as you guys know, but there's a lot more to the multiplayer client that we love, called FFA, than just the regular subcom, and these mods play a big part, so I thought I ought to be putting a little bit more of a showing in for them. Engie mod, what does it entail for those of you that don't know? Basically, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it actually should be called factory mod. It seems to have a bigger impact on factories than engineers, as far as I can tell. But basically what it means is you've got tech buildings. So when you want to upgrade a factory from, say, T1 to T2, for that first upgrade you have to build one land activator. So it's one single building, and that will allow you to build or upgrade any other land factory you've got up to T2. And what's interesting is that the cost of one or a land activator and the upgrade of one land factory from T1 to T2 costs exactly the same amount as it would do if you were just upgrading a land factory from T1 to T2 in the regular game. And what will this achieve? Well, imagine that every other factory upgrade after that in Engie mod will be cheaper. So hopefully, rather than just getting the massive spam of T1 factories that you then end up destructing or not using, whatever it may be, hopefully you will get more T2, T3 factories to produce units rather than just that one T2 or T3 factory with a billion engineers clumped around it. But if you want to still do that, it will still work. So, you know, it's not really cutting out any kind of usual gameplay for anyone that likes to play the game in a certain way. I think it's pretty versatile. Anyway, this is going to be my first cast on a 40k map. It's probably going to go on a while, guys, so clear your diaries. And it's going to take place on Concord Lake. So let's head on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. And it really is an all-star cast, absolutely outrageous. Let's start at the top in the 12 o'clock position. Up here we've got Voodoo. He's going UEF in Volvo Beige, opening first land. And then over to the right we've got Armageddon. He's going Turd Brown Seraphim, also opening first land, all very standard. Down in the 3 o'clock position we've got Tag Chosen in, I want to say orange, but it kind of looks off orange to me. Sort of thing that when an orange has been left out in the sun for too long. And then down here we've got Zoc, the man of the hour, in his purple Cybrin standard, also going first land, all very standard. And then down here in the 6 o'clock position we've got the quintessential Luzon going his customary Teal Seraphim, also opening first land. Over here on the left we've got Laneless. He's going Grey Aeon, so nice to see a little bit of departure from the overwhelming Seraphim. We have another Seraphim here. It's Baby Blue Kircher, also opening first land, going second air, it would seem. And last but definitely not least, in the yellow Cybrin we've got Craze. So a hell of a lot of FIM, but at least we do have a showing from one of each of the other races at least, but also two Cybrin, which is nice to see. And he's also going first land, if I didn't mention it already. Concord Lake, not exactly a fair symmetrical map for an FFA. Obviously the people in the corners are closer to these little pockets of mass up at the corner, these little craters. Be interesting to see how that pans out. I imagine I'm going to be split screen for a lot of this, guys, if not all of it. It's going to be the only possible way I can hope to cover it. So if you're not a fan of split screening, I do apologize, but I hope you can understand it's going to be necessary. First few casualties kicking around. We've got one unit down for Kocha to a Mantis. Then up here we've got a Selen of Armageddon's wailing away on an engineer. Finally managed to take it out of Voodoo's. Another Mantis over here on the left-hand side, scoring another engineer kill. Can finish off this mass point if he hangs around. I think he's going to be good to do so. Very little happening around him in terms of danger. And another mass point going down here for Kircher from Craze. Nice little engagements there happening north of Kircher's base. Kircher's actually going to send his ACU north. He's had enough of this. He's going to deal with all of this business himself. Getting to work early on a naval factory, of course. A lot of Seraphim on this map. Navy's going to be pretty key. Then you get those T2 cruisers in the water and get them some space to work. They'll be able to ground and pound your opponent's bases on the shorelines to dust. Excellent range, of course, they've got. Starting to see Luzern down here at the bottom, pushing left with his ACU, taking a look at where he's going. It's just a move command for the moment. Potentially going to be helping this engineer. No, he's going to be grabbing another land factory with that ACU next to it. More combat happening over on the somewhere. I thought it was over here. It's impossible to tell. It's actually a mole just chilling down here at the bottom, and that's spotted this engineer from Kircher. Another one going down. So Crazed being a right royal pain in the backside for Kircher. Chosen at the moment sitting pretty, not having any engagements on the right hand side with Zoc or Armageddon. Armageddon seems firmly focused on Voodoo, and we've actually got Voodoo's ACU heading southeast towards Armageddon's base. Gonna run head first into a PD. I'm hoping he's got overcharge to deal with it. He's not. He's just going to get in there and recycle. That is incidentally the quickest way to deal with that if you haven't got access to overcharge, which Voodoo clearly doesn't. So that is the right decision there. Zoc very unhappy about some early bombing raids that have ensued from Chosen. It seemed like it was all going very peaceful on this side of the map, but alas, no, that's not the case. Zoc is going to have to sort that out. There was even a little bit of airplay there from Kircher. That was probably a scout. And getting a little of a three-way action on over here. Armageddon exclaims that Voodoo wants war. He's pushing actually quite hard up here at the top. He's got his ACU heading south, but we've got two comms down here in very close proximity. It is Luzern and Laneless, and Laneless doesn't have a lot of support. He's bringing a few units in now, some Auroras. Needs to be a little bit careful here. Luzern focusing on Laneless with his ACU and also bringing quite a large amount of spam. This could go very badly indeed for Laneless. I suggest he's probably walking the wrong way. He wants to be walking towards the shore so he can get into the water and survive this. He knows that that's probably his best opportunity now. He's heading backwards, taking an awful lot of Zooey fire as he does, though, going down to 700 hit points, and Luzern can afford to focus on him, puts in a cheeky overcharge there, down to 600 HP. Layla still making his way towards the water, 26 hit points, and down. The first member out is Laneless at minute 6.5. And that is not what you want to see if you are any other player on this map. Luzern with an empty place next to him for it to expand into, and also 3 wall sections that Laneless had laid down there, protecting himself from Kircher. I suggest that that is not where the main threat was going to come from. Luzern so very dangerous, and now he's got a free starting location. Kircher has made the move, though, during that little engagement to the bottom with an engineer. He's starting to pick up some mass points, and that should work well for him. He's bottoming out on score at the moment, though, thanks to all of the issues that have been going on the left-hand side between him and Crazed. We're getting a little bit of play down here on the left side of the map. Crazed has managed to get down an auto gun. Obviously, we've seen some harassment there from Kircher, and I think that's going to be time. We're going to have to go to split screen to keep an eye on everything that's going on. We've now got a large group of mantids heading south from Crade's base. Kircher isn't going to intercept for the moment. He's chilling in the water, head just above the waves. I'm sure if anything could get on him there, but then he decides to make landfall, coming on to take a few pot shots at the mantids as they just stray out of range. They're heading south now. Kircher looking a little bit vulnerable over on the left side of the map. We've also got a bunch of Zooies down here from Luzern. They're heading southeast towards Zoc's base, do an untold amount of damage if they manage to get into that crater. And now we're finally getting the impact of this engagement. Mainly Zooies out on the ground. Kircher manages to get a T1 PD up just in time. It's a shame for Crazed. He couldn't get his mantids in there quickly enough to take out that build capacity before defenses went down. But Voodoo, things looking a little bit sticky for him up top. He's down to around 6,500 HP. He's heading after the group of Thams up here at the top. See if he can take care of them before they cause any more trouble. But he's got very little in terms of stuff in his base. He's been harangued and harassed by Armageddon, who's advancing steadily towards his position. And this group of Mantids over on the left for Crazed are circling around to go after Mass Extractor over on the left-hand side. Could potentially get a nice little run-by in down here, avoiding most of these troops working on the mass points. That will cripple, or hopefully cripple, Kircher enough for him to walk over him a little bit later. Kircher coming back on shore with his ACU to defend. Happening on the rest of the field. Luzon extending into Laneless's old base. He's also harassing Zoc a little bit. Wants to, or thinking about engaging with all of this stuff down here at the bottom. He's got a bunch of Zuis and Thams, but they are matched or mirrored by Medusas and Mantids, just waiting for Luzon to make a move. And in fact, no longer waiting. They are going to walk straight in and see what damage they can cause. Of course, the Thams getting a little bit caught up on the beach, not able to follow the Zuis out onto the water. Mantids closing them down and picking them off as they pursue. That was definitely an engagement that went in Zoc's favor. Zuis now falling out as best they can onto the water, but taking a lot of damage as they do so. Definitely a win there for Zoc, who's also making a little bit of a push down here with a few, or a small squad of extra Mantids. But things still looking a little bit dicey up here at the 12 o'clock position for Voodoo. Armageddon pushing hard now with his ACU as well. Looked like Voodoo was going to push north there with his strikers. Decided against it. I think it's a wise decision. Lots of stuff coming in for Armageddon at the same time. Down here at the bottom left, little run by was successful. Could do with picking up that mass point craze, but obviously there's a lot going on. He's also moving a bunch of troops up the right-hand side of the main crater mass, which I'm very impressed Kircher has managed to bag. There is one engineer in here for Voodoo that was mopping up wall sections that had obviously gone down to keep people out, but he's managed to deal with it. And now he's promptly sapping, reclaiming a radar. Wants to get rid of that coverage. We've actually got 3 engineers up in this crater now. It'll be interesting to see what, if anyone, makes of it. Voodoo paying attention more so than Crazed, gets forward, reclaims that little Cybran engineer to seal the deal. Now we're finally getting some engagements over on the right-hand side between Chosen and Armageddon. Armageddon seems to have the better of the numbers game. Chosen going to pull back ever so slightly. Large amounts of power going down for Chosen. He's not pushing out with his ACU or doing anything rash. He's just sitting in there, ecoing hard. Gonna knock that up to +2. Allow these players to make some decisions. It's going to be interesting in this game as well, because of course these are some of the best players that the FAF community have to offer right now. But it's a very different game, these large maps and the free-for-alls, to the smaller 5 to 20k maps that they're used to playing on for ladder matches and all of that sort. Be interesting to see if they are as adept at the late game as, say, a pro Setons player might be. And now we're getting a pretty significant engagement on between Voodoo and Armageddon. Armageddon has actually got the gun upgrade on his commander. You can see the rate of fire going down on Voodoo, and Voodoo needs to be careful. He's getting overcharged in the face at the same time. And now large groups of units coming in from Armageddon. I think Armageddon's got the better of this one. He's alternating nicely between ground units with his comm and Voodoo, forcing Voodoo back into the water and then to come back out again to try and even up the numbers. But I think he's going to struggle. He was upgrading to T2 Air, but he's had to pause that. Not managing to finish that off. Voodoo now down to around 4,000 HP. Getting back into the water, needs to be very careful indeed. Over on the left-hand side as well, we've also got Kircher pushing Crazed quite hard. He's got some T2 units in there, some Ilshivers. Voodoo down into the red, down to around 2,900 HP. Nice little overcharge there, taking out a couple of Zuis in one fell swoop. He has got a T2 naval factory in play, but at the moment it's land units that he's short of, and he desperately needs them. Up here at the top left, that crater has changed hands. Crazed managing to get the better of the deal, and a nice little rank of veterancy has brought Voodoo back into the game. Chosen exclaiming how much Zoc is ecoing down at the bottom. We're also getting a nice little push down here at the bottom for Luzerne, and once again though, Armageddon still pushing Voodoo very hard indeed. He goes back into the red, down to around 2,500 HP. It's going to be tight whether or not he heads back, gets it back into the water. He is going to do so though. Armageddon not going to force his luck, wants to make sure of the base's destruction rather than pursuing for a commander kill, which he might not be able to get, and then losing the advantage. Manages to take down that PD very nicely indeed. Voodoo still making a play of it though on the beach, 2,800 HP or so, and falling, goes back into the water, pursued by Thams from Armageddon, and now he's completely submerged and will probably have to stay there. His base in tatters. Voodoo has been officially evicted from the 12 o'clock position. Meanwhile, down here we're getting a little bit of a push on from Luzerne. He's got bunches of Ilshivers, he's got Thams, he's got Zuis, outranging those PD at first, which is a very nice decision. Going to take those down, and that will give him an entrance into the back edge of Zoc's base, incidentally where his ACU has moved to. Going to get as much of that eco upgraded as best he can, but he can utilize his commander well. He should be able to deal with that. He's also got Corsairs into the equation, so he's made the transition to T2 air. Voodoo meanwhile back onto the land, gained another rank of veterancy, busy swatting as many Thams as he can get his gun onto, but he has no base left. He has what looks like 2 mass extractors, and that is it. 1 Valiant class destroyer and some wall sections and an interceptor, and that is everything in Voodoo's possession. He is surely done, probably not to have any more meaningful effect on this game. Still, the battle rages over on the left-hand side. Kircher pushing Crazed very hard indeed. Got his ACU right up the front. Not with the gun upgrade, though, as we've just been seeing from Armageddon. The rate of fire dramatically slower. Over here on the right-hand side, the engagement continues between Zoc and Luzerne. Luzerne getting the better of the units, but Zoc now about to engage with his ACU. Should be able to deal with that without any major problems. Kircher now pushing on the left-hand side, though. Lots of Zuis coming in, taking out all of the mass storage and that mass point, and it looks to me like Crazed has been broken. His ACU's in the water at the moment, trying to deal with the destroyer and the frigate over here. He has got the torpedo upgrade, and it looks like he is over. He is done, and he's lost the crater once again back to Kircher. So Kircher very nicely played indeed. And Voodoo once again out on the beach, being hounded by as many Zuis as I've ever seen in one bunch. Do with getting in there and overcharging, but of course he hasn't got any base left to do so. He won't have the energy to make that happen. He's drawing those Zuis back. That destroyer will be able to get some decent kills if he starts focusing on them. And there we go. But Voodoo is going to have to run for his life. Now over on the left-hand side, Crazed is going in, trying to cause as much damage as he can to Kircher's naval factory, or naval facilities. There is the naval activator indeed. There you can see it. That will allow him to upgrade to T2, which he's done. Deciding not to spam naval factories though at this time. And also we're getting some T1 torpedo launchers going down now for Kircher as we pass the 20th minute in this game. Crazed moving his ACU back towards that naval factory. Voodoo making landfall at the same time. Not sure what his decision or his tactic is going to be at this point, being completely devoid of any base whatsoever. We are starting to see some T2 cruisers out now from Luzerne, but Crazed taking an awful lot of damage over here on the left-hand side. down to around 2,500 hit points. He's trying to deal as much damage as he can to those torpedo launchers, but it's not going to be enough. Too many of them have gone down, and bam, he goes down. So the second guy out of this game at minute 21. Crazed, good job for what you did, but it was too much to contend with. That push from Kircher, very nicely played indeed, Kircher. So Kircher inherits a quarter of the map, or thereabouts. Things looking pretty dicey indeed for Voodoo at the same time. He's been evicted by Armageddon. So Armageddon, Kircher, and Luzon, the guys to watch out for in this map. Meanwhile, over on the right-hand side, we've got some of these cruisers for Luzon. They are busy bombarding Zoc's main base. He hasn't really got an answer for it at the moment. He's building lots of TMD to try and deal with those incoming cruise missiles as best he can. Chosen looking like he's in full turtle mode up here, going for as much eco as is humanly possible. You can see the T1 land activator there for Seraphim. A little bit of a fracas over here. Got some air units circling overhead from some mobile anti-airs from Chosen. Probably mostly just a scouting attempt. We've got a large drop coming in now from Armageddon. Looks like a bunch of FAMs. He'll be able to deal with those units without any difficulties whatsoever. And that clears that up nicely. And longer this goes on, Kircher's area of the map looking to get ever so slightly smaller. Busy building T2 PD, more shields. It's curling up into as tighter defensive ball as is humanly possible. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got a bunch of Zuis from Kircher, busy bombarding the outer fringes of Luzon's recently acquired base from Laneless. Flak artillery going to go down. There's not really a great deal in the area for Luzon to be able to deal with. We've also got quite a big push over on the left-hand side. We've got Ilshivers coming down from Kircher. Got even more heading south, wisely anticipating Luzon as the main threat for him at the moment. Armageddon's just that little bit too far away from him. Voodoo's actually still alive. That looks like his ACU. It is moving up top, back up to 11,500 HP or thereabouts. What is he planning to do? He's planning up here to start rebuilding. That looks like a couple of P-gens that are going to go down. That will help him with the upgrade on that mech. So he's still in the game for now. It'll be interesting to see if he can forge himself a comeback. And Zoc's forward base has been decimated by these cruisers from Luzon. At the same time, Luzon's having problems on the left-hand side. Kircher's ground units chasing that small band of units of Luzon's back away from the edge of that crater. We've got a little drop coming in, though, with a bunch of Ilshivers from Luzon trying to secure this area. And actually, walls that originally went down from Kircher are actually hurting in the long run. He can't get back in there for the moment to reclaim this crater. He's probably going to have to drop or force his way in with some engineer. And now the units get redirected over to the left-hand side from Luzon to deal with this impending threat. He has lost 4 mass points already. This one's gone down as well, though I'm not sure entirely what's killed that. Meanwhile, over on the right-hand side, we've got bombardment from Armageddon working on Chosen's base. More point defense going down at the edges. He's got a decent amount of TMD, so he's swatting away those cruise missiles without any real difficulty. And still, Zoc's eco continue to take some punishment from those cruisers. Only one cruiser left now to deal with Zoc's threat, and this is a nice example of what we're talking about with the Engie mod. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 T2 factories and a T3 factory, rather than one T2 factory with a billion engineers around it. But of course, if you want to do that, it's still perfectly viable. Nothing's been changed, and that gives a nice look at the different ways you can actually play this game with this mod. It's had a little bit of criticism recently. I think it's slightly unfair. I was actually someone criticizing this mod myself before I'd actually looked into it, and it doesn't seem bad at all on the face of it. Now we're getting some Ilshivers from Kircher, who've broken through, taking down a T2 mass point from Luzon. Luzon's trying to counter them with T1 bombers. Nice placement of a T2 PD there. Let's give him some coverage. Kircher moving his units south, away from the main threat. Of course, this is the thing with these large 40k maps. You have so much more time to plan your response because of the travel time that land units take. Air is very much that much more useful. It allows you to get around the place quicker. And of course, Navy on a map with a huge bond in the middle, ultimately incredibly important. And up here, Luzon seems to have the better of Kircher's Navy. Kircher trying to counter with a bunch of Zuis heading onto the water. See how much attention Luzon is paying. Apparently quite a lot. He manages to micro that cruiser and the rest of the ships out of danger. Doesn't want to get too close to the torpedo launchers over on the left-hand side. I think that T2 factory is probably doomed as long as Luzon decides to stay committed over on this left-hand side with those units. And despite not looking like he had much in the way of defenses, Luzon has managed to corner these units from Kircher. He's engaging now with a few Ilshivers of his own. And of course, no intel down here at all for Kircher. He's at concentrations clearly elsewhere. So that Ilshiver is able to get perfect firing solution on him, and now the pressure is really being turned up over here from Chosen, or for Chosen. Armageddon sitting off the coast with these cruisers, maybe about to change his mind though. Nothing is it's not really much for having much success with those cruisers. There's far too much TMD in that base for Chosen, and that one destroyer is still alive for Voodoo. It's going to be touch and go who wins here. Oh, they might take each other out. Oh, 600 HP. Very nice indeed. And Voodoo's sitting up here at the top. Here come his customary T1 PGen templates. Love those things. UEF Pride mofos. Go oppress some symbionts. Always a fan of that. And the flame war ensues in the comment section below. But Kircher definitely needs to get some TMD up at the front of his base. It's looking pretty vulnerable right now. Has lost that naval factory. Has lost all of the build capacity and the torpedo launchers that were sitting there. Now we've got a few engineers from Luzon looking like they're coming in on a reclaim mission. He's split them off. 3 going to continue. Another 3 coming back for some other reason. Still not seeing any Seraphim T3 Navy on the ground yet. I tell a lie, actually. We've got a battleship in production now for Luzon. It's interesting to see that the first port of call. I would always usually assume that the sub-hunters are the first thing you go after. A few units from Luzon strafing across the top of Kircher's base, getting forced away by a brick. And this illustrates exactly what I was talking about. We've now got 3, or all of these land factories, sorry, so that's 6 land factories all teched up to T3, while at the same time just one upgrading, or sorry, T2 upgraded air factory with engineer support around it. So it's perfectly viable for you to mix and match. And Zoc, very unhappy with being evicted from his original base, is storming back in with those recently created bricks. Is going to knock Luzon off those mass points and hopefully reclaim it back for his precious Cybran nation. Say that sarcastically, of course. Nothing precious about Cybran and their silly walking destroyers. Love winding them up, it's fine. And Luzon devoting just 1 cruiser over to this left-hand side now. Not at all concerned about Kircher. He's done some damage. He's eliminated that naval threat. It's probably a wise decision. He doesn't need to hound any one player out of the game. If he can monopolize the C, that's probably his plan for the moment. He will be in pretty good shape, and we can see a sub-hunter on the field now for Luzern. And we've got a T2 naval activator in place, so that will allow upgrades to T3, and there it goes. See the speed at which that's going. Of course, that is a lot cheaper than it would be if it was just a regular upgrade to T3, because he's already built a proportion of it in that activator. And we are promptly seeing the first of Armageddon's T3 sub-hunters in production. And poor old Chosen, he's about to get royally double-teamed, or what looks like it. It's a battleship en route, of course, and no amount of TMD is going to help him with that. That's just going to wail away on those shields. And now we've also got an aircraft carrier out for Luzern, and that could be key. Aircraft carriers, excellent, of course, at producing air nice and quickly, and that's what we're going to need if you're going to win a match like this. Air is crucial. It's interesting to see that no one has fixated on air super early, and we're at the 33rd, or about to be the 34th minute. He's getting a bunch of engineers in to assist with production, so that's going to build ASFs at an alarming rate. Lots of eco going on down here for Zoc. Called an eco whore a little bit earlier and he objected, but hey man, I think they're kind of right. And luckily for Chosen, Armageddon has backed off just at the moment when Luzern arrives, so he gets a little bit of a reprieve in that sense. And now he's managed to finish a chicken which is marching south at great haste straight towards Zoc. I think he would do a little bit better to focus on Luzern. It's definitely who everybody needs to be afraid of at the moment. Voodoo's still sitting pretty up here at the top. He's got a shield gen online. He's working on another T2P gen, so he's not out of it yet. Decided not to finish off his epic UEF template. Now we're getting some naval warfare going on between Armageddon and Luzern. Luzern loses that sub-hunter. He's got another one in play. Armageddon is withdrawing his. Oh, it was just about to stray out of range, I thought. It was down to around 450 hit points. That last torpedo coming in from Luzern finishes him off. Chicken making a move now. Does actually look like he's kind of strolling past Zoc's base towards Luzern. What's Luzern got on the ground to defend? Nothing at the moment, but he is working on a chicken. That will be finished long before the arrival of Chosen's chicken. Get a little bit of chicken on chicken. Deep fried, which is the way we like it. And still more T3 sub-hunters in production for Luzern, trying to get a handle on the Navy side of this game. Feeling a little bit like these guys are overwhelmed. They know they don't have the units to take on anyone full frontal, so they're just ecoing up. They're building up on tech as best they can. Finally, we're getting some engagement here from this assault bot. Looks like it's about to make contact with that fringe flak, but he hasn't arrived quickly enough. The chicken for Luzern is online, and also a hell of a lot of bombers, but they're flying directly over some mobile AA, and that's going to be what the fuck barbecue. Look, it's raining T1 bombers as they just fall out of the sky. Kaflooey coming in for another pass. It's a beautiful sight. Evil Seraphim aircraft fertilizing the ground. And that chicken from Chosen, only 9 kills, no veterancy on him. He's going to come off second best to Luzern's Guardian. He's also got a whole bunch of Ilshivas on the move as well. Chosen have his 4 mexes, pretty much. But it's like Turtle Island. It seriously is. Look at all that shield gen coverage. You've got TMDs in there, you've got T3 anti-air, you've got flak, you've got absolutely everything a cook could want, including the kitchen sink, and artillery installations going down as well. So he's going to be able to keep any sea-based threats at bay. Be interesting to see if Armageddon knows that Voodoo is up there in the top left. Yes, he does. Plenty of coverage. He's deciding not to evict him for the moment. He's slowly building up units here. He's got a whole bunch of Ilshivers. Obviously concerned because the amount of point defense that could be in there. Of course, Voodoo's ACU could cause a few issues. And another little bit of UEF art coming out here from Voodoo. God, I love those wall sections. If nothing else, that will survive you, my friend. That's probably his plan, knowing he's not likely to get much done. Now that chicken, sitting on around 27,000 HP, could potentially make a march on this. I think he's going to for the moment. It looked like we had some T2 artillery fire coming across from Zoc. That may have been T2 or T3 mobile. Not entirely sure where that was coming from. That's got to be T2. There we go. One Gunther sitting there firing away. Cyberian artillery, of course, hideously inaccurate. Compensates that with damage. And if you will excuse me for 2 seconds, I'm going to take a very quick sip of water. You have no idea how much your mouth would dry out when you're talking solidly about Supreme Commander for 40 minutes with no end in sight, and it really is no end in sight. These guys still working on some solution to take each other out of the game. The Ilshivers over on the left-hand side going to take down a fringe T2 mass point from Kocha. Could potentially march up and take this one out as well. It's looking pretty precarious though for Zoc. I'd like to see him get a few experimentals on the go. He's working on a whole bunch of mass fab farms. There's been a lot of talk recently about how to rework the mass fabs, make them a little bit more cost effective. It's a real fine art though, a real tough balance. The minute you make them viable, you start to run the risk of making them OP. Of course, people as well don't want to encourage too much turtling, and they really do encourage turtling, because you can sit in there, and if you can protect your borders, you can continue to increase your economy. But I just don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't. You know, we shouldn't be so afraid of the turtle. There's an awful lot of good stuff in this game, and it's only really viable on the larger maps anyway, so you expect that kind of thing to happen. Got strategic missile launchers going down for Chosen. It's interesting to see anybody else is planning to go that way. See any offhand down here for Zoc. Kind of hard to tell, and that's one of the things about these larger maps as well. Sometimes the best defense is just a sprawling base. You spread out everything as much as humanly possible. It makes you really tough to kill. Keep your commander away from anything too dangerous, and Luzon's attention is obviously somewhere else. He's getting a few Ilshivers killed from some artillery coming in from Kirch's main base. Just going to stand there and eat that fire all day. As Cruiser up to 70 kills, so it's obviously had a fair old amount of success. Going to struggle to overwhelm that TMD though. It's been sitting there for a while. Another battleship in place for Luzon. An awful lot of sub-hunters now on the field for both Armageddon and Luzon, who really do rule the waves. It is those two alone in the naval game. Kocha could potentially get back into it. I see no reason why he couldn't get a couple of naval factories in here. See Seraphim as well have access to those sub-hunters. Seems to be mass T3 land for the moment, and T3 air. So once again, of course, single T3 air factory with engineers, illustrating that it all still works the same on that front. which is actually quite nicely illustrated by Zoc. I'm sure he probably did that on purpose to show it's still perfectly viable if you want to continue playing in the same way that you currently play. It's just dancing in the middle between Luzon and Armageddon's naval forces. I think Armageddon could easily get the better of this if he leads with those sub-hunters and destroyers. Make sure he keeps those cruisers out of range. Not very useful, or at all useful I should say, against naval forces. It's an awfully long-range projectile. Is that from an artillery piece? It looks like it is. Taking out a few landed interceptors from Armageddon. And now we're getting a little bit of a push over here from Kircher, who's deciding to finally harass some of Armageddon's stuff. And he has got a siege tank up there to defend, and he's going to be able to deal with those Ilshivers with little or no difficulty. Plus there's also a couple of, or one remaining TMD that's forcing Kircher to steer around. Got a few units there. Finally that TMD gets primaried. And down here at the same time, we've finally got an engagement on from Luzon going after Zoc's base, finally making a play with two chickens. One of them, the one we saw earlier, defending against Chosen's. The engaging chicken coming in to deal some damage against Luzon, wasn't able to do it. And, now Zoc's in real trouble. Meanwhile, that attack up top peters out from Kircher. Armageddon's just got too much on the ground for him to overwhelm. This one renamed T1 Medusa, renamed the Horninator, whatever that means. And Zoc has moved his commander over the rim of the mountain here, out of the way of those chickens. Very wise move indeed. He's working on a stealth gen, so he doesn't get evicted, get taken out of the game. Decent amount of ASFs in the air for Zoc. If only he could get some whalers on scene. He's working on renegades, in fact, to get as many out as possible. Going straight after the weaker chicken. Up to around 24 kills now. The other one's on 34. All of those factories about to go down. Oh, so much power about to go down. I can zoom out on the top meanwhile. Also getting an engagement here happening on the right-hand side between Luzon and Chosen. He's bombarding Chosen at range with that battleship. Taking quite a lot of fire though. Obviously his focus is down here on the chickens, and I think the artillery, T2 artillery pieces of Chosen might just finish him off unless he gets microed nice and quickly. That weaker chicken is down to around 4,000 hit points. He's probably going to go down. It's holding its own, but lots of T3 power going down all over the place. Zoc still got plenty though. It's not hurting him too much. One chicken is down, the other one marching though straight into the main base. The main protective crater. Shield collapses. Ball of plasma death, whatever it is. It's got a hilarious name. I couldn't tell you what it's called though off the top of my head. Colliding with those T3 power plants. Finally that battleship over on the right hand side goes down. Another one backing it up though. So it's not over for Chosen. Still that chicken remains up to 52 kills, harassing that crater as best he can. All of those T3 power plants are down. That is the focus of this attack, clearly. T3 power, still 1, 2, 3, 4 in play. Lots of build capacity. Could get an awful lot of veterancy on the cards for this chicken. Death ball going in. Oh, snap. That was all Control K just as that hit. Nice decision, Zoc. No veterancy for you, sir, but it's not going to matter. All of the P-gens going down. Now we've got quite a big engagement from Armageddon coming in the middle pond, chasing down Luzon's naval forces. Look how many sub-hunters he's got. That is disgusting. And finally that chicken goes down. Zoc has a reprieve. Unbelievable amounts of stuff. And look at the amount of T1 air that Kircher has accumulated over on the left-hand side. He's suffering from some issues. He's got a bunch of siege tanks coming in, probably heading up towards the crater. That is so many T1 interceptors. That's unreal. He's also got a bunch of Nothas in there, the fighter bombers for Seraphim. Now Armageddon closing down on Luzon's battleships. There's two of them here. Doesn't want to lose those. One of them's only on 9,000 or just under 10,000 HP. Take a look at what Voodoo's doing at the moment. He's up here on an upgrade of some kind. It's interesting stuff. Everything else is turned off. It's requiring all of his power. Now things really kicking off down here at the bottom between Armageddon and Luzon. Luzon got a couple of mobile shield gens in there to cover those sub-hunters as best he can. But that's not going to work. He's just not got enough, and it looks like Armageddon's going to break through on the naval side of things. So much air up here for Kircher. Quite understand what the purpose is of it. Maybe he built too much by mistake. Still Voodoo on that upgrade, making very slow progress. I'm really interested to see what that is. It's requiring everything he's got. Very strange numbers on there, doesn't tell me anything. Still, these sub-hunters are alive. There's an awful lot of reclaimable mass down here. Zoc's apparently writing something. Stop here. If only they would listen to Zoc, if only. He's actually sitting down there with his commander. It's a much safer position, less precarious than he was in before. But another battleship under threat now from huge quantities of submarine hunters. In fact, I think that aircraft carrier may be about to go down first. Indeed it does. I hope it didn't have any aircraft on board. And a massive air engagement happening up here. Mostly T1, few T3 there from Armageddon. That gives you no concept of the size of it at all when the icons disappear like that. It's kind of pretty. No idea who's winning. It looks like it's Armageddon, and it's definitely Armageddon. The odd ASF in there really making a difference. And now we've got one naval factory down for Luzon, another probably about to follow. Sonar system going down first. And of course, the imberness of the sub-hunter. Air won't work on me either because I have incredible anti-air. Just emerge from the water and nail anything coming after us. That's one of the real strengths of the sub-hunter. Still patrolling aircraft from Armageddon. Voodoo now working on T3 P-Gen. Probably engineering suite. As we pass the 51st minute in this game. Torpedo bombers coming in now for Armageddon as well. Really of much, if any, use at the moment. Of course, all of these engineers are immune for the moment. All of these torpedoes going after this naval activator, which hovers, so can't be targeted. Large amounts of scouting going on around the map on behalf of Kircher. Lots of scout planes coming out from Voodoo, which is quite interesting. Obviously has some kind of play in mind. I'm going to see what Voodoo's actually got on his comm, if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen. He's got the personal teleporter, so he knows that he's basically done. He's got resource allocation, he's got T3, personal teleporter. He's getting that in place, so he's going to go for some kind of tele-snipe. And once that's online, he's probably going to have the power to go for someone. The question is where. Eagle Eyes, there it goes, so he's going somewhere.
Strategic
Question is
launch
where,
detected.
and whilst we're looking at that, Chosen launches a nuke. Can we see where that's going? Excuse the weird sticky key things there. Don't know what that's involving. And it looks like it's going towards Luzon, going straight after the commander. And an experimental bomber I can hear going off over the top of Armageddon's base. It's all kicking off. Luzon sneakily managing to build that. I'm still waiting to see if I can see where Voodoo is going to. Got it down to -1 at the moment because I don't want to miss it. He has disappeared. Question is where to. It looks like he's disappeared at least. Next to impossible to see. Bomber's still going to town over here for Armageddon, for Luzon, working on Armageddon. Armageddon losing huge quantities. I wonder if he's going after Luzon. See any Voodoo? You made your escape yet? Where is he gone? Answers on a postcard if you can see Voodoo. Anybody, Voodoo economics. Got a bug under construction down here for Zoc. Another bomb away up here for Luzon, taking out huge quantities of stuff. Is that him? So Voodoo's teleported straight into Armageddon's base, taking an awful lot of fire though from the sub-hunters that are sitting there, and he immediately initiates another transport. Question is, where's he going to go? And Armageddon's taking an awful lot of punishment, needs to deal with this bomber. Voodoo down to around 10,000 HP from 27,000. But he wished he was carrying the shield gen as well. Just going to get out of there in time. Where's he gone? Is the question. Has he gone home? Can't see it. Bomb still going away over on the right-hand side for Luzon. Gonna knock that back up to regular speed. Voodoo needs to be careful. He was pretty heavily damaged. I'm hoping for his sake he was going back to base. But Armageddon's base is just getting owned. Oh my god, that bomber, he says. Or something slightly different and unrepeatable, he says. He hasn't returned to base. Not as yet. Could he be going after Luzon is the question. Support commanders on the ground. Very easy indeed for Luzon to start spamming lots and lots of T1 PD if that's the case. But down suddenly, Voodoo appears down at the bottom, and that's a miscalculation. He hasn't scouted. He's appeared right next to some loyalists. He's got enough to overcharge though. Zoc exclaiming, "What are you doing?" But he's got a bug on him. Should have sprayed himself with a can of Raid before he left. Bye-bye, Voodoo. Third to be ejected at minute 55. And now that bomber from Luzon going after Zoc, but Zoc has considerably more air power than Armageddon had. That bomber down to 16,000 HP, well into the red. There's lots of anti-air as well. Sam's all over the shop. He's not going to be making it back home to kiss his children. He's going to be embedded into a mountainside, and that's a lot of free mass dumped on Zoc's doorstep. I'm sure he'll be very grateful for that. Luzon just looking so dangerous though right now. Kocher's made a nice little push on the left-hand side. In the meantime, he's had a bunch of Ilshivers that have made it into the back of Luzon's base, currently targeting that T3 mass point. A chicken out has been trying to defend. He's also got a bunch of siege tanks that are coming in on the left-hand side from the lake. Potentially cause some issues as they make landfall. Going to take out that point defense. Couple of T2 PD though, be able to range those siege tanks for the moment. So many torpedo bombers out for Luzon.
Strategic launch
the
detected.
Only counter he seems to have at the moment. But we've got a nuclear warhead in transit now for Luzon. Question is, where's it going? It looks like it's going towards Armageddon. Could potentially be going after the C units. That would be a very nice decision in my mind. Looks like it's flying straight overhead though. And obviously that bomber's caused untold amounts of damage. And this is what we're talking about as well. 3 T3 naval factories there for Armageddon. Very much easier to do with the Engie mod. However, they're not going to last. Nuclear warhead comes down directly on top of them. They will all go down. A nicely placed nuke there from Luzon, crippling what is arguably his main threat right now. Got another bug in production down here for Zoc, so that'll be 2 bugs, 2 Soul Rippers, which he'll be wielding before too long. Luzon focusing on the experimental game at the moment, has serious sub-hunter shaped problems circling around the edge of his base. He's trying to counter them with torpedo bombers. They are cheap after all, but he's going through an awful lot of them for little or no game, and now there's a whole bunch of mobile shield gens coming in to help protect those mobile subs. He's desperately trying to get back into the naval game ever since Armageddon shut him down around about, oh, I don't know what it was, 20 minutes, half an hour ago, something like that. What's happening over here in Chosen? Chosen's working on T3 heavy artillery. Love it. Nice to see all variances of stuff being used. Even hoping to see some game enders in this, but even at this level I'm not sure these guys will attempt to build any. And T3 artillery, that will be very interesting indeed, turning this base from turtle into porcupine. And Lucid trying everything in the book to reclaim some kind of naval space back from Armageddon, who's not letting up at all. Those T1 torpedo launchers just won't cut the mustard against those T3 sub-hunters at all. No chance whatsoever of that working. Armageddon's been producing chickens in the water here. It's a nice place to do it. Move the engineers out there if you can keep them safe. Of course, he thinks he can since he's got naval supremacy for the moment. There's an awful lot of amphibious, or sorry, hover tanks I should say, out for Luzon. Not going to be able to target the subs, of course, while they're submerged, but hoping to catch them maybe when they emerge from the water to take down the torpedo bombers. The trouble is, there's an awful lot of shield coverage out for them now. Zoc has ceased production on that bug for the moment. He's working on other things. Working quite heavily on loyalists. He's got an awful lot of T3 factories going on. Potentially get a nice lot of spam out if he's got the eco to do it. That's the question, and he really doesn't.
Strategic launch detected.
Another nuke going off. Where's that coming from? It's coming from Coach's base up here. And oh my god, do you think he wants to keep people out or not? I don't know. I'm unsure. That's a lot of flippin' wall sections. Anyway, nuke in the air. Looks like it's going... Almost looks like it's going for Zoc, actually. 59 minutes. Could this be Zoc going out? The question is, how's he looking in terms of nuke defense? Not too well from what I can see, and it really does look like, unless he's going for naval units, I don't really see that that would be a sensible choice. We've also got 2 chickens on the left for Luzon marching on Kirch's main base. Still that nuke progresses towards its target. Still no anti-nuke for Zoc shooting it down, I don't think. He's renamed a bunch of commanders as he likes to do. Which one's the actual one? Is it that one? I hope it's not. Oh, it clips the one over on the edge. Oh my god. Couldn't get his comm out the way. I love that tactic. Renaming multiple support commanders your actual name, trying to confuse your opponents. Now we're seeing a nice little engagement over here with 2 chickens, a whole bunch of Nothas and some siege tanks, the Uthams, or Othams, trying to finish off chickens as best they can. Zoc's base goes boom. Outrageous amounts of combat going on all over the map. And Luzon, I think, could probably safely move those chickens into that main base. He might lose one if he doesn't do so. Needs to deal with those Nothers.
Strategic launch detected.
Another nuke going off, this time from Luzon. Another experimental bomber in the air. Armageddon's come ashore with a chicken. He's bombing it. He's very close indeed to Luzon's commander. But it's a close fire support nuke. Luzon's nuked his own base to try and deal with that chicken as it's firing on the commander, and he's managed it. I don't believe it. That is outrageous. And Armageddon is pissed. Absolutely pissed. Hasn't managed to kill him. He was bloody close in doing so, so it was a nice idea producing those chickens in the middle of the water like that. One of these chickens have gone down, and meanwhile all these landed planes absorbing damage. In fact, that other chicken is taking most of that damage. He's down to around 19,000 HP. Luzon needs to move that into that main base before he ends up losing it. That is a wasted opportunity if he doesn't. Luzon immediately starts the task of rebuilding. Excuse me while I reseat my headset. Beautiful bomb there, potentially just missing those sub-hunters. Back up to normal speed. Gonna take a look at these two areas of play. He's trying to ground fire the horde of sub-hunters, and this is a real waste. If he'd have sent this chicken in earlier, he could have annihilated the base, but the Nothers are going to get the better of him. Bombs away, that looks pretty good. Takes out almost all the sub-hunters. Lovely bit of ground fire there from Luzon, and that has completely turned this game around. That has afforded him masses of breathing room. There's only one sub-hunter in this area of Luzon's naval territory. Still trying to fire at the naval activators, of which he's going to have absolutely no luck. But Chosen has got that artillery online. Say hello to my little friend. Firing away. Lovely little Scarface quote there, my friend. And everyone's ganging up on Luzon. He must feel particularly unloved. More heavy shield generators in production. Looks like the Eco is the target of opportunity for Chosen, going after T3 P-Gens. I think having problems, of course, with the accuracy. T3 artillery never the most accurate. And finally, Chosen having a measured impact on this game. Now, he's going to be quite hard to break. That is a disgustingly retarded amount of shield gens he's got. How many shield gens has he got in there? I'm curious to see. 9... Are they T2s or T3s? 9 T3s. And 14 T2s. So many shield gens. Giving him excellent coverage. And it's going to be tricky to deal with. But of course, the best thing Luzon's got going for him right now is how spread out his base is. And we've got scout planes coming in now for Chosen as well. And it's quite interesting, actually. We've got a teleported sub-commander up, support commander up here for Luzon. He looks like he's cloaked as well, or shielded, sorry. Cloaked. And got a little stealth base going on. That could be problems for both Kircher and Armageddon. Armageddon? He's not Armageddon, he's Armageddon. Oh, that's going to come back and bite me. Could be problems for both of those two guys a little bit later on. What's happening? Tripping over my words as I pass the 1 hour, 3 minute mark. And that's an experimental bomber being built awfully quickly by Luzon. He's got another one landed over here with 22 kills on him. And it looks like that's what's happening. It's strange, this game. You'd expect to see so many more ASFs, or I would expect to see so many more ASFs from all these guys. And the fact that there isn't a great deal, Luzon seems to be the only person who's committed to ASFs in any great way. The fact that there isn't a great deal of air coverage means that the experimental bomber play is viable, which generally in these larger maps it isn't. It's very easy to shoot them down once you get above 50, 60 ASFs. Generally be doing it in one pass without any real concerns at all. Armageddon back up to 2 T3 naval factories, another one upgrading by itself. Wants to get back into this naval game as best he can and knock that back up to +1. 2 bombers circling now. A chicken in production, another experimental bomber in production for Luzon. He's going mass bomber. That could be real issues for him. Or real issues, sorry, for everybody else, not for him. And at +1, look how quickly that is being built. That is nasty. Incidentally, of course, I forgot to mention this look for Engie mod is an older version, of course, because we had to go to special measures for me to get it running. But at the same time, it's still in production and it's going to change again soon. It's going to look slightly different. The activators, the tech buildings are planned to go and to be replaced by an upgrade that you can do directly on your factory. So you would have one HQ factory that would act as the activator and still be able to produce units and everything. And then everything else would be the same. You'd be able to go after mass upgrades on other factories. And this is actually what I think Chosen should have been doing a while ago. If he takes out all of this build capacity, he would slow up the production of all of these experimental bombers. Instead, he's going straight after the commander and these power gens, I guess, which are very heavily shielded. It actually looks like he's primarying the shield gens to try and take them down, but he's going to have real difficulties in doing that. There's so many engineers he could destroy. One shot right in the middle here would take out almost all of these, which would be very nice indeed. We're looking in terms of other stuff. Not seeing any other special things going down, no game enders or anything like that. There's not much going on Chosen's side of the map. Sorry, not Chosen, on Coach's side of the map at all. He's sitting up here with his ACU, just building disgusting amounts of T3 anti-air. Obviously, he's very concerned about these experimental bombers. Looks like it's completed. Took a little bit of damage from those artillery shells. But now Luzon has 3 fully functional experimental bombers. And that's bad news for everybody that isn't Luzon. Bumping that back up to +1. Literally carpet bombing, can you say it? And he's producing mass spy planes from a whole load of T3 air factories that he's rushed together. And he's going straight after Chosen. That artillery has taken its toll. It's annoyed him. And he wants to silence it once and for all. And I think he's going to be able to do it. I don't care how many shield gens you have, dude. Mr. Chosen. This is going to be very, very difficult to defend against. I think he will be saying hello to your little friend. He's got a few friends of his own. Bombs away. Oh no, what happened to your base? That's hurting the back of my eyes. Seriously bright. They hang a righty up here and come back in looking like they're getting a solution on Chosen's ACU. Taking an awful lot of damage though. Might have been collective AoE from impacting on the shields. All the shields go down. Chosen resists most of the damage. Most of the damage impacted on the shields. He's okay for the moment. He's trying to get back in under shield coverage. The bombers coming in for another pass. Might actually do this. It's going to be close. Up. He's very close though. No, I think that's him down. It is. He says no. He was strutting right past T3 P-Gens on his way. I think that's what did for him, perhaps. One of them went up, 2 of them went up, in fact, as he was walking there took a little bit of damage from the bomber, but those went up and finished him off. And Luzon, sportsmanly as ever, says little roach. And now we've got another chicken that's made it on land from Armageddon. Very sneaky indeed, pal. I like it. Making it on land, heading south at great speed. Going to be going after Luzon's power, of which there are many, but dotted around in very haphazard fashion, making it that much more difficult for hostiles to deal with. But I think that will do it. You can change target now. Shield gen goes back online. Chicken pursuing him, though, from behind. And now these experimental bombers probably going to get one or two bombs off. Bomb away there from the left-hand one. The right one gets shot down. Eventually that other one gets shot down as well. They were just too heavily damaged after all of the stuff going on over Chosen's base. Armageddon airlifting some engineers over to what was Chosen's base. Going to get himself some reclaim. But that chicken from Armageddon taking an awful lot of fire. It's not going to make it out of there, I don't think. Lots of T1 bombers coming in to assist. And down he goes. So once again, Luzon proving he's a tough nut to crack. Over here, he's reclaiming all of Zoc's stuff. We've got downed gunships, experimental gunships. We've got lots of T3 factories, T3 kit all over the shop. Lots of mass ready for the taking. Another chicken being produced by Armageddon in the middle. More on the way as well. And now we've got a chicken up here from Luzon being produced, or has been produced in this little secret base up here. And he's going to primary Kocha first of all. Take him out of the game if he can get in there with that chicken, I have no doubt. And knock that back up to +1 as we pass the 1 hour 10-minute mark in this game. Kocha seems to be funneling everything he's got in this little nook into that strategic missile launcher. He's got one nuke in the clip for the moment. Now we're getting a little bit of an airlift coming across the map from Kocha. He also wants to make a play for Chosen's base, and Luzon anticipates the engineers that are going to be here. He sent all of his hover tanks that he had out earlier trying to counter that navy over to the middle. Armageddon's going to focus on the transports carrying the engineers with those two ASFs. One's down. In fact, he only had one full of engineers. That's a real shame. The other two are just carrying siege tanks, so he's not going to be getting any reclaim off that base whatsoever. Once again, in terms of naval superiority, Armageddon has come back with a vengeance. He is back in this. Luzon never bothered to rebuild. Every ounce of energy and mass seemed to go into those experimental bombers. Paid off, managed to get Chosen out of the game. Now we've got some cruisers heading south. Excellent anti-air, of course. Still, those sub-hunters persist in trying to shoot at what they cannot. Now another chicken, that one we saw earlier, making landfall, taking out a T3 mass point and its associated storage. A whole bunch of build capacity going pop at the same time. And this is nice movement here from Armageddon, keeping away from that defending assault bot of Kocha's, of Luzon's. Loads of T1 bombers still in the sky. Gonna come in, I imagine, for an attack on that assault bot. Up here at the top, Luzon's assault bot getting thwarted by land, losing an argument with a hill. Meanwhile, it seems that the defending assault bot from Kocha does have a solution, and he wins that little fight. And he says in chat, lovely hill. Obviously Luzon had other things to worry about, namely experimentals in his own base. Once again, he's going to get the better of it, using experimentals to defend. Huge pass coming in there from those bombers. Really actually having quite a significant impact on the game, considering the lack of tech. I tell you what, Armageddon could really do with some battleships or something to bombard, or mass T2 cruisers to bombard Luzon's base. So many shield gens up here in which the commander is hiding, though. Strategic missile launchers sitting right by that shielded section. Another Another experimental bot over there. Another one coming in from Armageddon. If he heads straight south, could probably get more done. Strays too close to this left-hand side. He's just going to get taken out by that chicken. Another chicken up here from the secret base from Luzon. This time not going towards Kircher, heading far right towards Armageddon. And still this game plows on at 1 hour 13 minutes game time. Still a lot of mass on the floor down here that somebody could reclaim. Kircher got in there with his siege tanks and annihilated everything that was left. Be interesting to see if Armageddon commits anything back to that. Another strategic missile launcher going down here on the left-hand side as we enter another quiet phase in the game. Strat bombers up here at the top, trying to assist with the destruction of this chicken. Experimental assault bot heading in towards Armageddon's base, closing in at great haste. Really could do with some gunships, but he hasn't got any by the looks of it. One strat bomber, one gunship at the moment, and a handful of Ilshivas coming in to try and deal with that bot. Really isn't a great deal. Some shielded P-gens up here that would be quite nice for Luzon to take out if he could manage it. So many ASFs though from Luzon, offering perfect air coverage, no hope of stemming that tide. And now we're getting another airlift from Kircher. Very unhappy obviously with that engagement from Armageddon before. Armageddon won't be attacking him this time. He's got bigger problems. He's got about 4 fully laden transports there with engineers to go and hoover up that mass. Luzon has seen it, however, and the question is, will any make landfall? That is what we all want to know. I think Luzon's going to have trouble getting all of those shot down. 1 group, 2 group, 3 groups of engineers all on the ground, and that's bad news for everybody else. That's an awful lot of mass into the hands of Kircher, who basically has been down and out, but hemmed into that left-hand side of the map with very little or no eco. The assault bot still continues to be a problem for Armageddon. To 34 kills with 50,000 HP on the clock still. Taking a look at what Kircher's doing. Starts with a T1 factory. First of all, if I were him, I'd probably be moving as many of those engineers as I could and starting to build experimentals. A whole bunch of experimental bombers would go down very nicely for him right now. And finally, Chicken coming into the rescue for Armageddon. This game does lag quite a bit. Nasty FPS lag. Once upon a time I had a nice computer and then it got old. Another chicken coming in from that base on the left-hand side. Armageddon gets under the shield coverage. He's poking out, actually. He needs to get back a little bit. There's a siege tank around, but the shield goes down. It's not going to afford him any protection now anyway. A few extra gunships coming in to help. We can see already, actually, the difference that mass has made on the right-hand side. Kircher has managed to get an experimental bomber finished extremely quickly indeed. So much mass to be gained. You see the hoovering job he's done. Huge quantities of mass. And another chicken sets off from the secret base. This is a lovely little maneuver with the support commander up here for Luzon. And that's what you can do on these larger maps. I do enjoy them so. Can lose 4-6 hours playing a game on a map like this, no problem. I know, because I've done it myself. To the point of where I screwed up my eyes. But more bombers under construction for Luzon. who's leading the way on eco quite considerably. Armageddon not happy with his state of affairs, and now we're seeing some aggression in the form of tele support commanders, and it may help to bring this game to a close at 1 hour 20 minutes. And it is an effective measure, don't get me wrong, but I do wish they would implement the Black Ops, or the item that's in Black Ops, the teleport inhibitor, because I do believe that everything in this game should have a counter, and it really is BS that someone can do that. Whether or not that'll happen, I don't know. I shouldn't think it will. It's the best thing to come out of Black Ops as far as I'm concerned, along with the sea-based strategic missile defense. Large TAC missile volley going off, I guess, at a previous location for this fleet. Sails on right by, but an experimental bomber comes out in timely fashion. Doesn't get a bomb off, flies straight overhead. But will manage to get another one off on a second pass. Chicken not able to get anything done on the left-hand side for Armageddon. Just kind of chilling underwater. Bombs away, though. This will be the end of this fleet once again. Armageddon's had a really bad time of things in terms of sea. Have you ever seen so many engineers on the right-hand side of the map? Another round dot appears, so 2 experimental bombers now in play for Kircher. Could we about to see some kind of shock turnaround here? If you could get in, if you get a location on the ACU, Luzon's ACU, he could potentially turn this around. And all of those engineers finally going pop, though, so no more hoovering for Kircher. Luzon doing a very nice job there. 60 kills on that bomber. Another teleporting support commander for Luzon. Got shield coverage on it and everything. He's got a whole bunch of T2 gunships on him now. And that crater is now firmly in his hands as well. So Luzon acting like a pro to the end. Know what to do in the end game. And finally, one of Armageddon's chickens emerges on top to deal with these support commanders who are building T2 PD as fast as humanly possible. Experimental bomber comes in, which is a particularly nice bomb right on top of it. A whole bunch of T1 bombers coming in over the top of that bot as well. Luzon has moved his ACU, though, however, it is no longer there. If you could take out these strategic missile launchers, that would be helpful. Luzon says no as they go down. A whole lot of build capacity up here as well, going pop as well. 91 kills, surely up to decent veterancy. It's a very nice grab there from that chicken. TA for Life did say this mod shouldn't be introduced after that epic Depony comeback with the Soul Ripper the other day. Him grabbing tons of Engie kills with that Soul Ripper and getting veterancy, staying alive and turning around the game single-handedly. He said that is a reason not to implement Engie mod into any further development. I gotta admit, it's just happened here, and this is Engie mod, so it still happens. Forward comes that chicken, still doing absolutely fine. 137 kills, well into the green. The question is, who's going to win between this unvetted one and Armageddon? Armageddon's taking a lot of fire in terms of T1 bombers on top. 35 a second regen against 20 a second, but that's really going to shake things up. Shields blinking on and off, blocking some of Armageddon's shots. He does a little bit of micro to avoid that plasma ball of death. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Takes another bomber, it's not, and Luzon's chicken survives with about 8,000 HP. But over here on the left-hand side, a beautiful bomb takes out all of the, or virtually all of the power for Kircher's base. Kircher lifts off those bombers he's been keeping aside. Luzon spots it. He's bringing back those ASFs to attack. The question is, as I slow right down, can I see Luzon's ACU? I am in fact going to pause it Where is Lucen's ACU? If I select it, can I see anything? Of course I can't do that while I'm paused. Is that him? No. So many support commanders kicking about. I can't see him for the moment. Question is, has Kocher seen it? Those bombers hanging a Louis, speeding that back up, and I don't think he's going to get anything done with those bombers anyway. That's too many ASFs. They are in behind, and look at the HP fall off that bomber. It just went to Weight Watchers and promptly forgot to eat anything at all, and the other one did as well. Out he goes, and that's why generally experimental bombers aren't that good of a unit. But when you've got the ASF coverage, it's fine. When you don't, that is what they can do. Lucen having tremendous success with those bombers. And Kocher's main original base now in ruins. This little one over to the right-hand side. He did actually manage to hoover up a fair amount of mass because this never got taken out. Land Factory obviously produced a bunch of other engineers. Got more teleported support commanders over here. Lucen just teleporting them everywhere. Voodoo's credit, he seems to have dealt with that crater up at the top right. He's got a few Ilshivas in there, finishing that off. More experimental bombs going off straight after the main base. Oh, Kocher, everything he built. Oh, my dude. My poor little dude. He's very unhappy with it. Shields went offline at a really bad time. Doesn't know why. So it didn't block the shot, and it would have kept him alive. That bomb was on nothing, but I think he's dead now. Bam! Wham bam! Thank you, man. He goes out, and then there were two, and it is just down to Lucen and Armageddon. It is a rematch of the Imber Cup 2 Grand Final, Lucen versus Armageddon, and just like that rematch, Lucen had the advantage going into it, which I think he kind of does now, although there's another chicken coming in from Armageddon. He's managed to deal with things quite nicely up there. And another experimental bomber coming in now for Lucen. Doesn't get the bomb away though. Far too much T3 AA. That was obviously the one that just took Kocher out of the picture. Chicken has landed though for Armageddon. And once again, the dispersed nature of these bases making it really hard for anyone to lock down a victory with one experimental. That's why the bombers are so effective. In fact, I'm going to stay on there because there has been a teleport up here, and he's building T1 PD around the strategic missile defense, and if he's spied an opening, if that's the only strat missile defense and Lucen has a nuke in the clip ready to go, that surely is going to be game. We'll have to see how it works out. If it works out for the best. Chicken still alive, marching south. Do with taking out these air factories, that's for sure. Chicken not even being deployed
Strategic
over here
launch
for
detected.
Lucen, and there's the nuke coming out of this little nuke battery down here. There's
Strategic
another
launch
nuke
detected.
there as well. So at least 2, maybe 3
Strategic
nukes.
launch
There we go.
detected.
And that's surely going to be game. Lucen, you have played an absolute blinder. Armageddon was just about to get his naval game back on. He'd also managed to take out this sneaky little base that had caused him some serious problems earlier in the game with this chicken that moved up to the top right-hand side. In come the nukes. Armageddon doing quite well, taking out 3 of the T3 air factories. 1 nuke lands. That SCU saves you. He says he still had 3 times Armageddon's eco. I disagree. You had 100 more eco. You had a lot of power, but 100 more mass. But yeah, I gotta admit, I'd like to see some kind of inhibitor for the teleport. Zep, if you're watching, probably not, because when you're as busy as Zep, how do you have time to watch games that go on for this long? But a teleport inhibitor would be a lovely addition to the game. I don't know why it was never included. I did hear actually that it was planned to be included at some point after the Black Ops sort of gained traction and people started playing it. It was planned, saying it was planned on the forums for an update in SOPCOM that never actually came, and then of course GPG shut down, turned off support for this game. I just think it's one of the very few things that's missing. And once again, teleporting support commander into the base, building point defense all over the place. Knock that up to 1. The question is, how difficult will Armageddon make this for Luzon? He's heading south with his ACU. Doing a reasonable job actually, considering bombarding the fringes of Luzon's base, but Luzon essentially has a third of the map under his control now. All of that eco. He's even got it. He's got his ACU right down here in the bottom right, and 1 strategic missile defense with it. That would take quite a bit of finding. He's just moving out all over the place. SCU Telly is hateful. It certainly is, my friend. I'm not a fan either. A few PDs stops it, says Luzon. Yes, it does, but on a game like this, it's not difficult to do multiple teleports, as we saw, and if you teleport them all to the same place,
Strategic launch detected.
Really have any hope whatsoever. More nukes going off for Luzon. Is he going for close fire support? He is. He's going to try and take out the Navy, and I think he's going to manage it. 2 aircraft carriers down. Another one's going straight after the main base. Chicken is about to emerge. It doesn't really matter what happens down here now. We've got support commanders in the base for Luzon, in Armageddon's base, just taking over what he's got. Luzon's commander is safe down here, and Armageddon will never be able to expand at the rate at which... Oh, sorry, Armageddon will never be able to expand at the rate at which Luzon is. It's safe to say that's game. Armageddon does win that 2-on-1 with those chickens. Finally breaks this little tortoise shell that has been
Strategic launch detected.
causing them all so many problems, which Luzon previously had been hiding under. They're soon going to realize that there is no way to end this game. Luzon's going to have to be declared the winner. Can't do anything about those nukes. Luzon say, "Can you leave?" after 1 hour and 31 minutes. Armageddon says that's why he never builds nukes. Well, nukes are a valid part of the game, my friend. Calling GG. So you're going to control K his comm. As we go back to single screen for about the first time in 1 hour and 20 minutes. And there he goes, control K. Oh my balls. What a long match. My brain is melted. Well, thank you very much to everybody who participated in that. It was pretty insane. I hope you gave you guys sort of a flavour of Engie mod. I might possibly do a little bit of a tutorial as well at some point to illustrate it better, in case that didn't grab you or didn't really explain everything. There are some other differences as well. I believe T2 and T3 engineers have been altered slightly to make them a little bit more effective, so it's not just about the T1 Engie spam. But yeah, as I say, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that, and happy Easter, or belated Easter once again. But as always, guys, in the meantime, until next time, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle signing out.